Mars, the red planet, a distant sphere of rust-colored dust and ancient secrets that may soon become humanity's second home. Tonight, we'll explore one of the most ambitious questions our species has ever dared to ask. How soon can we actually colonize Mars? Not in the realm of science fiction, not in some distant future that feels like fantasy, but in our lifetimes, in the coming decades, perhaps sooner than you might imagine. If you find comfort in these gentle explorations of our cosmic future, I'd be grateful if you'd consider subscribing and liking this video. It helps the algorithm find more curious minds like yours, souls who look up at the night sky and wonder what lies beyond. Also, feel free to comment your time and location below. The visuals are here for you, but feel free to close your eyes, breathe deep, and let your imagination drift across the 140 million miles of space that separate us from our potential new world. There's absolutely no problem if you doze off midway through this exploration. Let your thoughts float across the solar system as we uncover the remarkable reality of humanity's next great adventure. For the first time since our species emerged from the cradles of Africa, we stand on the threshold of becoming truly interplanetary. The dreams of science fiction writers and visionary scientists are transforming into engineering blueprints and launch schedules. But this isn't just about rockets and technology. This is about survival, about hope, about the fundamental human drive to explore, to push beyond boundaries, to ensure our species continues long after our home planet becomes uninhabitable. Mars represents more than just a destination. It represents a backup plan for consciousness itself, a second chance for civilization, a new chapter in the cosmic story that began with the first spark of awareness in the primordial darkness. The question of when we can colonize Mars isn't merely technical anymore. It's become a race against time, a convergence of human ambition and technological capability that's accelerating faster than most people realize. In research facilities around the world, in the clean rooms of aerospace companies, in the offices of space agencies, brilliant minds are solving problems that seemed impossible just decades ago. SpaceX has announced that the first uncrewed Starship missions to Mars will launch in 2026, taking advantage of the next Earth-Mars transfer window. These aren't distant promises or vague aspirations. These are concrete plans, with specific dates, backed by hardware that's being tested right now. Elon Musk has stated that if those initial landings succeed, the first crewed flights to Mars could happen as early as 2028. Just 4 years from now. Within the span of a single presidential term, human beings might be walking on the surface of another planet. NASA, with their characteristically methodical approach, plans for human Mars missions potentially as early as 2035. Their strategy involves using the Artemis lunar program as a stepping stone, a place to test technologies and train astronauts for the much more challenging journey to Mars. It's a careful, scientific approach that emphasizes safety and thorough preparation over speed. But whether it's 2028 or 2035, we're talking about dates that many of you listening tonight will live to see. Children born today will grow up in a world where humans live and work on Mars. That child taking their first steps as you listen to this might one day take their own first steps on Martian soil. The engineering challenges are staggering, yet they're being solved one by one with the methodical precision that has characterized every great human endeavor. The journey to Mars takes approximately 6 to 7 months each way, depending on the alignment of the planets. During this time, astronauts will be exposed to cosmic radiation levels that could deliver a minimum of 0.66 sieverts during a round trip. That's roughly equivalent to getting hundreds of chest X-rays, spread over more than a year in space. The Martian environment itself presents obstacles that would challenge even our most advanced technologies. Surface temperatures fluctuate wildly between -70 degrees Celsius and freezing. The atmosphere is unbreathably thin, composed mostly of carbon dioxide, with barely 1% the pressure of Earth's atmosphere. Dust storms can engulf the entire planet for months at a time, turning day into night and covering everything in fine, toxic particles that corrode equipment and pose serious health risks to human lungs. Yet despite these challenges, or perhaps because of them, the race to Mars has become a catalyst for unprecedented innovation. SpaceX has revolutionized space travel with their reusable rocket technology, bringing the cost of launching payload to orbit down from tens of thousands of dollars per kilogram to a few thousand. Their Falcon 9 rockets have completed hundreds of successful missions, with boosters landing themselves back on Earth like something out of a science fiction film. The Starship system, designed to carry up to 100 passengers and massive cargo loads to Mars, represents a fundamental shift in how we think about space transportation. It's not just a bigger rocket, it's a paradigm change that makes large-scale colonization economically feasible for the first time in human history. These aren't incremental improvements. They're revolutionary leaps that compress decades of expected progress into just a few years. But rockets are only the beginning. The real challenge lies in keeping humans alive and thriving once they reach Mars. Every breath of air, every drop of water, every calorie of food must be carefully managed in an environment that offers none of these naturally. Traditional approaches would require transporting enormous quantities of supplies from Earth. The metabolic consumables alone for a 6-person crew staying 1,000 days on Mars would weigh more than 30 metric tons. That's before considering tools, equipment, habitat modules, and everything else needed for survival. This is where in-situ resource utilization becomes crucial. Instead of bringing everything from Earth, Mars colonists will need to live off the land, extracting water from subsurface ice, generating oxygen from the carbon dioxide atmosphere, and producing fuel for return journeys using the Sabatier reaction. These aren't theoretical processes. They're being tested right now in laboratories and demonstration facilities around the world. The psychological challenges may prove even more daunting than the technical ones. Imagine being confined with the same small group of people for years, knowing that Earth is a tiny dot in the sky, that any message home takes between 4 and 24 minutes to arrive, that rescue is impossible if something goes catastrophically wrong. The isolation will be more complete than anything humans have ever experienced. Antarctic research stations and nuclear submarines provide some analogues, but nothing truly comparable to the absolute isolation of Mars. Depression, anxiety, and interpersonal conflicts could threaten mission success as much as any technical failure. The selection and training of Mars colonists will require entirely new approaches to psychological evaluation and preparation. We're not just looking for the most technically skilled individuals, but for people who can maintain mental stability and group cohesion under conditions of extreme stress and isolation, the financial requirements are equally staggering. Conservative estimates place the cost of the first human Mars mission at around $230 billion. Subsequent missions, occurring every 3 years during favorable orbital alignments, would cost approximately $142 billion each. If we follow the Apollo model and send 9 crews to Mars, the total bill approaches $1.5 trillion. These aren't just large numbers. They represent a significant fraction of national budgets, requiring sustained political will and public support across multiple decades. Yet the economics are rapidly changing. SpaceX's reusable technology has already reduced launch costs by an order of magnitude, and their Starship system promises even more dramatic improvements. Elon Musk has stated that the cost per ton to Mars' surface needs to drop from the current $1 billion to around $100,000 to make a self-sustaining city economically viable. That's a 10,000-fold improvement, but it's not impossible. We've seen similar cost reductions in computing, telecommunications, and renewable energy. The timeline for achieving self-sustaining Mars colonies involves multiple phases spanning several decades. Initial missions will focus on demonstrating basic survival capabilities and establishing minimal infrastructure. These early outposts will depend heavily on supply missions from Earth, serving as proving grounds for the technologies and procedures that will enable larger settlements. The next phase involves building up local manufacturing capabilities, developing reliable food production systems, and expanding the population to several hundred people. This is where Mars colonies transition from scientific outposts to actual communities, with permanent residents who may never return to Earth. The final phase envisions cities of thousands or tens of thousands of people, with complete industrial bases capable of producing everything from computer chips to spacecraft. At this point, Mars wouldn't just be a human settlement. It would be an independent branch of human civilization, potentially developing its own culture, governance systems, and technological innovations. SpaceX's ambitious plan calls for sending 1 million people to Mars using 1,000 starships launched during Mars transfer windows, which occur approximately every 26 months. Each journey would require 80 to 150 days of transit time, averaging about 115 days. It sounds like science fiction, but the underlying mathematics and engineering principles are solid. The key insight driving these aggressive timelines is that Mars colonization isn't just about exploring another world. It's about ensuring the long-term survival of human consciousness itself. Earth faces numerous existential risks, from asteroid impacts to supervolcanic eruptions, to the gradual aging of our sun. A self-sustaining Mars colony would serve as a backup for human civilization, a guarantee that our species and our accumulated knowledge would survive even if Earth became uninhabitable. This isn't pessimism. It's prudent planning on a cosmic scale. Just as we back up our computer files and maintain emergency supplies, establishing a second home for humanity represents the ultimate insurance policy for our species. The question isn't whether we should colonize Mars, but whether we can do it fast enough to matter. As artificial intelligence systems become more sophisticated and robotic technologies advance, much of the groundwork for Mars colonies will be laid by automated systems. By the time the first humans set foot on Mars, there should already be significant infrastructure waiting for them. Landing pads, power systems, fuel production facilities, and basic habitat modules could all be constructed and tested by robotic systems during the years leading up to human arrival. This creates a feedback loop where each successful mission enables more ambitious subsequent missions. The first crews might stay for 26 months, waiting for the next favorable orbital alignment for their return journey. Later crews might stay indefinitely, becoming permanent residents of humanity's first extraterrestrial city. The question of how soon we can colonize Mars is transforming from a matter of scientific speculation to one of engineering execution and political will. The technology exists or is rapidly being developed. The financial resources, while enormous, are within reach of determined nations and innovative companies. The timeline is compressed into the span of current human lifetimes, rather than distant future generations. We stand at the threshold of becoming a multi-planetary species. The red planet beckons not as a distant dream, but as an achievable destination for human settlement within the next decade or two. The question that keeps scientists awake at night isn't whether we can reach Mars, but whether we can stay there. Because arriving is just the beginning of a story that will unfold across generations. A tale of human ingenuity tested against the stark reality of an alien world that offers no forgiveness for mistakes. Picture yourself standing in a place where the sky is butterscotch during the day and blue at sunset, where the horizon curves differently than it does on Earth, where two small moons race across star-filled nights that last almost as long as Earth days. This is the world that awaits the first Mars colonists, a landscape both beautiful and utterly unforgiving. The challenge of creating breathable air on Mars represents one of humanity's most elegant solutions to an impossible problem. The Martian atmosphere, thin as it is, contains the raw materials for life if you know how to extract them. The MOXIE experiment aboard NASA's Perseverance rover has already demonstrated that we can split carbon dioxide molecules and harvest oxygen directly from the Martian air. It's a process that sounds almost magical when you consider it carefully. Machines the size of toasters, powered by nuclear reactors, steadily converting an alien atmosphere into the breath of life. But oxygen is just the beginning. Water, that most precious of all substances, lies frozen beneath the Martian surface in quantities that would sustain thousands of colonists for decades. Robotic missions have mapped these underground ice deposits with increasing precision, revealing a hidden ocean locked in solid form just meters below the rusty surface. Future Mars colonists will become miners in the most literal sense, extracting the essence of life from a frozen world. The development of Martian agriculture presents challenges that would humble even the most experienced Earth farmers. Imagine trying to grow food in soil that contains toxic perchlorets, under a sky that provides less than half the sunlight of Earth, in an atmosphere so thin that water boils at body temperature. Yet researchers have already begun growing crops in simulated Martian soil, discovering that potatoes, soybeans, and even tomatoes can thrive under carefully controlled conditions. These aren't simple greenhouse operations. They're closed-loop ecosystems where every atom of carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus must be recycled with near-perfect efficiency. The waste from human digestion becomes fertilizer. Exhaled carbon dioxide becomes plant food. Even human hair and nail clippings get composted into growing medium. It's a level of resource management that makes the most sustainable Earth communities look wasteful by comparison. The architecture of Mars colonies will be unlike anything humanity has ever constructed. Buildings that must withstand temperature swings of 100 degrees Celsius while extended exposure. The solution isn't traditional protecting inhabitants from radiation that would be lethal over construction, but something more akin to underground cities, carved into Martian rock faces, or built beneath protective layers of regolith. These habitats will be marvels of engineering efficiency, where every cubic meter serves multiple purposes. Living spaces that transform into workshops during Mars's longer days. Corridors that double as hydroponic gardens. Storage areas that also serve as radiation shelters during solar storms. The entire colony becomes a single integrated machine for keeping humans alive on a world that never intended to host life. The timeline for achieving these engineering marvels is accelerating in ways that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. SpaceX's Starship has completed multiple test flights, each one bringing the vehicle closer to operational status. NASA's Space Launch System has successfully carried the Orion capsule around the Moon and back. Private companies are developing specialized equipment for Mars surface operations, from 3D printers that can build structures using Martian concrete to nuclear reactors small enough to fit in a shipping container, yet powerful enough to supply an entire settlement. The human element of Mars colonization extends far beyond mere survival to questions of governance, culture, and identity that humanity has never faced before. What laws will govern a Mars colony? Who has jurisdiction over crimes committed 140 million miles from Earth? How do you maintain democratic institutions when communication with home takes up to 24 minutes each way? SpaceX has already begun addressing these questions, declaring in their Starlink terms of service that Mars should be considered a free planet, not subject to Earth-based governmental authority. It's a bold statement that anticipates the development of truly independent Martian communities with their own social contracts and decision-making processes. The children born on Mars will be the first truly interplanetary humans, growing up with Earth as a distant blue dot in their night sky. They'll develop in 1/3 Earth gravity, potentially growing taller and stronger than their Earth-born parents. Their bones will be lighter, their muscles adapted to a world where jumping 3 times higher than on Earth is normal. They may develop cultural traditions, languages, and ways of thinking that are distinctly Martian rather than merely transplanted Earth customs. These considerations aren't distant philosophical musings, they're practical realities that the first Mars colonists will face within the next 15 to 20 years. The decisions made by those early settlers will echo through generations of human expansion into the solar system. The medical challenges of Mars colonization push the boundaries of space medicine into entirely unexplored territory. Pregnancy and childbirth on Mars raise questions that have never been tested. How does fetal development proceed under reduced gravity and increased radiation? Can human reproduction continue normally across multiple generations on Mars? Or will genetic drift and environmental pressures create a distinctly Martian branch of humanity? Emergency medical procedures become infinitely more complex when the nearest hospital is on another planet. Mars colonists will need to be prepared for everything from appendicitis to broken bones to psychological crises, all without the possibility of medical evacuation to Earth. Advanced surgical robots, comprehensive medical training for all colonists, and perhaps even experimental treatments that would be too risky to attempt on Earth become necessities rather than luxuries. The energy infrastructure of Mars colonies represents another technological frontier that's being solved through innovative approaches to power generation and storage. Solar panels must be designed to function efficiently in dust storms that can last for months. Nuclear reactors must operate reliably for years without maintenance from Earth. Wind turbines must harvest energy from an atmosphere barely 1% as dense as Earth's. The most promising solutions combine multiple energy sources with advanced battery systems and fuel cells that can store power for extended periods. Some designs envision Mars colonies that actually generate surplus energy, using excess power to extract water, produce fuel, and run manufacturing operations that would be impossible with limited power budgets. Transportation across the Martian surface will evolve from simple rovers to sophisticated vehicle networks that connect multiple settlements across the planet. Early colonists will rely on pressurized rovers for traveling between habitats, but larger settlements will require cargo vehicles, passenger transports, and specialized equipment for construction and resource extraction. The development of Martian transportation networks marks the transition from isolated outposts to genuine civilization. When colonists can travel safely and routinely between settlements separated by hundreds or thousands of kilometers, Mars becomes not just a survival experiment, but a true second world for humanity. Manufacturing capabilities on Mars will determine whether colonies remain dependent on Earth supply missions or achieve genuine self-sufficiency. 3D printing technology adapted for Martian materials can produce everything from tools and spare parts to habitat components and electronics. Advanced recycling systems will break down worn equipment and repurpose the materials for new applications. The holy grail of Mars manufacturing is the ability to produce computer chips and advanced electronics using local materials. This represents one of the most complex manufacturing processes on Earth, requiring ultra-pure materials and contamination-free environments. Achieving this capability on Mars would mark the moment when Martian colonies become technologically independent of Earth. Mining operations on Mars will eventually extend far beyond basic resource extraction to industrial-scale processing of metals, rare earth elements, and other materials that could potentially be shipped back to Earth. The lower gravity well of Mars makes it an attractive platform for launching materials to other parts of the solar system, potentially establishing Mars as a hub for asteroid mining and lunar development. These aren't speculative ventures for the distant future. Companies are already developing the technologies and business models that will make interplanetary trade economically viable. The first Mars colonies may start as scientific outposts, but they're likely to evolve into commercial enterprises that help pay for their own expansion through resource extraction and manufacturing. The psychological adaptation to permanent life on Mars touches something fundamental about human nature and our connection to Earth. Early colonists will maintain strong emotional ties to their home planet, watching Earth rise and set in the Martian sky with a mixture of longing and pride. But their children, born on Mars, may feel no such attachment to a world they've never seen. This psychological transition from Earth humans to Mars humans will unfold over generations, creating cultural and emotional changes that we can barely imagine. The first permanent Mars residents are likely already alive today, perhaps children who don't yet know they'll spend their adult lives helping to establish humanity's first extraterrestrial civilization. The convergence of all these factors, technological, economic, psychological, and practical, points toward a timeline that's remarkably compressed compared to historical human migrations. Where it took thousands of years for humans to spread across Earth and hundreds of years to explore and settle new continents, the colonization of Mars will unfold over mere decades. We're not talking about a gradual process that unfolds over centuries. We're discussing a transformation that will occur within the working lifetimes of people alive today. The children listening to this exploration tonight may themselves be among the first generation of permanent Mars residents, growing up in domed cities beneath alien skies, breathing recycled air, and eating food grown in Martian greenhouses. The question of how soon we can colonize Mars has evolved from speculation to scheduling, from dreams to engineering drawings, from impossible to inevitable. The red planet awaits not as a distant destination for future generations, but as humanity's next home, beckoning to us across the cosmic dark with the promise of survival, adventure, and the continuation of human consciousness beyond the boundaries of Earth. The robotic pioneers will arrive first, silent sentinels preparing the way for human footsteps. By 2026, when SpaceX's first uncrewed starships touch down on Martian soil, they'll carry more than just cargo. They'll carry the dreams of an entire species encoded in metal and silicon. These mechanical ambassadors will spend months, perhaps years, transforming the barren landscape into something resembling a home. Imagine the precision required for these preparatory missions. Robotic systems must identify the perfect landing sites, locations with access to subsurface water ice, yet protected from the worst dust storms. They'll need to assess soil composition, measure radiation levels, and begin the delicate work of infrastructure development. Solar panel arrays will unfurl like metallic flowers beneath the pale Martian sun. Nuclear reactors will hum to life, providing steady power through the planet's long nights and dust-shrouded days. The choreography of these early robotic missions resembles a carefully orchestrated ballet performed on an alien stage. Automated systems will extract water from the frozen regolith, electrolyze it into hydrogen and oxygen, and begin stockpiling the precious gases that will sustain human life. Fuel production facilities will capture carbon dioxide from the thin atmosphere and combine it with hydrogen to create methane, the propellant that will power return journeys to Earth. These aren't simple industrial processes. They're acts of alchemy that transform the raw materials of a dead world into the building blocks of civilization. Every ton of water extracted, every cubic meter of oxygen generated, every liter of fuel synthesized represents a victory against the cosmic indifference that surrounds Mars like a cold embrace. The habitats themselves will emerge from this robotic construction phase like flowers blooming in a desert. Three-dimensional printers will extrude walls from Martian concrete, a revolutionary building material that uses sulfur as a binding agent instead of water. The structures will be unlike anything built on Earth, optimized for an environment where the primary threats are radiation, temperature extremes, and the crushing psychological weight of absolute isolation. These early habitats will be marvels of efficiency and redundancy. Every system will have backups, and every backup will have alternatives. Life support systems will be distributed throughout the colony rather than centralized, ensuring that no single failure can threaten the entire population. The architecture will blend the sterile functionality of a spacecraft with the psychological comfort of a true home, creating spaces where humans can not merely survive, but actually thrive. The transition from robotic preparation to human occupation marks one of the most significant moments in the history of life itself. When the first crewed starships launch toward Mars, they'll carry more than astronauts. They'll carry the hopes of everyone who has ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what lies beyond our pale blue dot. The journey itself will test human endurance in ways we're only beginning to understand. 6 to 9 months in the cramped confines of a spacecraft, watching Earth shrink to a point of light behind them, and Mars grow from a red dot to a rust-colored world ahead. The psychological pressure will be immense. There's no turning back once the Earth-Mars transfer window closes. No rescue missions are possible across the vast gulf of interplanetary space. These first crews will be more than explorers or scientists. They'll be the founders of a new branch of human civilization, carrying with them not just the tools and supplies needed for survival, but the cultural DNA that will shape Martian society for generations. Their decisions about governance, resource allocation, and social organization will echo through centuries of human expansion into the solar system. The selection process for these pioneer colonists represents one of the most rigorous evaluations ever conducted in human history. Beyond technical expertise and physical fitness, candidates must demonstrate psychological resilience that borders on the superhuman. They must be capable of maintaining group cohesion under conditions of extreme stress, while making life or death decisions with no possibility of consultation with Earth. Yet these aren't superhuman requirements. They're simply human qualities pushed to their absolute limits. The same courage that carried our ancestors across unknown oceans. The same curiosity that drove them to explore unmapped continents. The same stubborn optimism that built cities in deserts and civilizations in the most unlikely places. Mars colonization represents the ultimate expression of these fundamentally human traits. The first permanent residents will face challenges that no human training program can fully simulate. Equipment failures that require improvised solutions using only materials available on Mars. Medical emergencies that must be treated without the possibility of evacuation to Earth. Social conflicts that could threaten group survival in ways that would be merely inconvenient on Earth but potentially fatal on Mars. These challenges will forge a distinctly Martian approach to problem solving and community organization. Resources that are abundant on Earth become precious beyond measure on Mars. Every drop of water must be recycled. Every breath of air must be carefully managed. Every scrap of organic material becomes valuable fertilizer for the hydroponic gardens that sustain life. This resource scarcity will likely create social and economic systems unlike anything that has ever existed on Earth. Traditional concepts of ownership and wealth may give way to more communal approaches focused on group survival and long-term sustainability. The harsh realities of Mars may actually foster more cooperative and egalitarian societies than those found on resource-rich Earth. The development of uniquely Martian technologies will accelerate as colonists adapt Earth-designed equipment to local conditions. Tools and techniques that work perfectly in terrestrial environments may fail catastrophically under Martian conditions. This necessity will drive innovation at a pace that rivals the most dynamic periods in human technological development. Consider the simple act of growing food on Mars. Every aspect of agriculture must be reimagined for a world with 1/3 Earth gravity, minimal atmospheric pressure, and soil contaminated with toxic perchlorates. Yet early experiments have shown that carefully controlled hydroponic and aeroponic systems can produce impressive yields of vegetables and grains, even under these challenging conditions. The psychological adaptation to permanent Mars residence will unfold over multiple generations in ways that we can barely begin to imagine. The first colonists will maintain strong emotional connections to Earth, celebrating Earth holidays and maintaining Earth customs as links to their home world. But their children, born under Martian skies, may develop entirely different relationships to both worlds. These Mars-born humans will grow up in artificial environments where every aspect of their surroundings has been carefully designed and constructed by human hands. They'll know instinctively that stepping outside without protective equipment means immediate death. Yet they may feel more at home in these controlled environments than their Earth-born parents ever will. The gradual expansion from small outposts to genuine cities will mark the transformation of Mars from a destination to a home. As populations grow from dozens to hundreds to thousands, the social dynamics will shift from survival-focused communities to complex societies with their own internal politics, economic systems, and cultural traditions. Trade relationships between Mars and Earth will evolve from complete dependence on Earth supplies to eventual parity, and perhaps even Martian exports to Earth. The lower gravity well of Mars makes it an attractive platform for launching materials to other parts of the solar system. Rare Earth elements and precious metals mined from Martian soil or captured from nearby asteroids could flow back to Earth in exchange for complex manufactured goods and cultural products. The timeline for achieving these milestones compresses dramatically when viewed against the sweep of human history. Where it took our species hundreds of thousands of years to spread across Earth, the colonization of Mars will unfold over mere decades. The children born in the next few years may live to see the establishment of the first permanent off-world human cities. This acceleration isn't just about better technology or more ambitious planning. It reflects a fundamental shift in how our species approaches exploration and settlement. Modern Mars colonization efforts benefit from centuries of accumulated knowledge about human psychology, engineering principles, and organizational structures. We're not stumbling blindly into the unknown as our ancestors did when they first ventured beyond familiar territories. The convergence of multiple technological revolutions, from reusable rockets to artificial intelligence to advanced life support systems, creates opportunities that didn't exist even a decade ago. Each breakthrough enables others in a cascade of innovation that accelerates the entire colonization timeline. Private companies and government agencies are no longer working in isolation, but as part of an integrated ecosystem focused on making Mars colonization achievable within current human lifetimes. The competition between different approaches actually speeds overall progress as successful innovations are rapidly adopted and improved upon by other organizations. The financial models supporting Mars colonization have evolved beyond traditional government funding to include private investment, commercial partnerships, and even crowdfunding initiatives that allow ordinary citizens to contribute directly to humanity's expansion into the solar system. This democratization of space exploration creates broader public support and faster capital deployment than purely government-funded programs. The risk calculations that once made Mars colonization seem impossibly dangerous are being recalibrated as our understanding of space medicine, closed-loop life support, and human psychology in extreme environments improves. What seemed like insurmountable challenges a generation ago now appear as difficult but solvable engineering problems. The momentum building behind Mars colonization efforts has reached a tipping point where success seems not just possible, but increasingly inevitable. Too many resources have been committed, too many technological barriers have been overcome, and too many brilliant minds are focused on solving the remaining challenges for the effort to simply fade away like previous space exploration initiatives. The question has shifted from whether humans can colonize Mars to how quickly we can establish sustainable settlements that will grow into genuine cities. The Red Planet beckons not as a distant dream, but as humanity's next chapter, waiting to be written by the generation that dares to reach beyond the comfortable boundaries of Earth and plant the seeds of civilization beneath alien skies. The mathematics of interplanetary travel reveal themselves in the quiet precision of orbital mechanics, where every journey between worlds follows paths carved by gravity and time. Mars presents itself to Earth travelers only during specific windows, celestial alignments that occur roughly every 26 months, when the planets dance into favorable positions. These transfer windows aren't merely convenient scheduling opportunities. They represent the fundamental rhythm of interplanetary civilization, the cosmic metronome that will govern the flow of people, supplies, and communication between worlds for generations to come. During optimal transfer windows, spacecraft can reach Mars using relatively modest fuel requirements, following elegant trajectories called Hohmann transfer orbits that spiral outward from Earth's path around the Sun to intersect with Mars at precisely the right moment. Miss these windows, and the energy requirements increase dramatically, making missions prohibitively expensive or technically impossible with current propulsion systems. This celestial choreography means that Mars colonization will unfold in waves, with major supply missions and crew rotations synchronized to these natural rhythms. Early colonies will need to achieve remarkable self-sufficiency between these 26-month intervals, developing the capability to survive and even thrive during periods when Earth support is simply impossible due to the vast distances and unfavorable orbital mechanics. The development of advanced propulsion systems could eventually free Mars colonization from these constraints, but the early phases will be governed by the ancient dance of planets around our Sun. Nuclear thermal rockets, ion drives, and even more exotic propulsion concepts are being developed that could reduce travel times and open more frequent transfer opportunities. But these technologies remain years or decades away from operational deployment. The infrastructure required to support regular interplanetary travel resembles nothing that has ever existed in human history. Spaceports on both worlds will need to handle massive cargo flows with industrial precision. Fuel production facilities must operate continuously to supply the enormous quantities of propellant required for interplanetary journeys. Communication networks must bridge the vast gaps between worlds, managing delays that vary from minutes to nearly an hour, depending on planetary positions. These aren't just scaled-up versions of existing terrestrial infrastructure. They represent entirely new categories of engineering that must function reliably in the vacuum of space and the hostile environment of Mars. Every component must be designed for extreme reliability, as failure in interplanetary infrastructure can strand entire populations or doom supply missions critical for colonial survival. The human factors of Mars colonization extend far beyond the technical challenges to touch something fundamental about what it means to be human in an utterly alien environment. Early colonists will experience sensory deprivation unlike anything in terrestrial experience. No wind carries natural sounds. No birds sing at dawn. No rain falls on windows during quiet evenings. The psychological impact of these absences may prove more challenging than the obvious dangers of radiation and equipment failure. Sleep patterns will adapt to Mars's slightly longer days, which last 24 hours and 37 minutes. This seemingly minor difference accumulates over time, gradually shifting human circadian rhythms until Mars residents operate on a fundamentally different temporal schedule than Earth inhabitants. The psychological and physiological implications of this adjustment remain largely unexplored, adding another layer of uncertainty to long-term colonial planning. The social structures that emerge on Mars will likely reflect the unique challenges and opportunities of the Martian environment. Traditional Earth-based concepts of privacy, personal space, and individual autonomy may give way to more communal approaches necessitated by the shared life support systems and collective vulnerability of early settlements. Every person becomes essential to group survival in ways that create both stronger social bonds and potentially more restrictive social pressures. Leadership structures in Mars colonies will need to balance democratic ideals with the harsh realities of survival in an environment that offers no forgiveness for poor decisions. Traditional governmental systems designed for stable terrestrial environments may prove inadequate for communities where technical expertise and crisis management skills matter more than political charisma or administrative experience. The legal frameworks governing Mars settlements represent entirely new territory in human jurisprudence. Traditional concepts of sovereignty, citizenship, and jurisdiction become complex when applied to settlements established by Earth nations, but operating independently on another planet. What happens when Mars colonists disagree with directives from Earth governments? How do you enforce laws across interplanetary distances? Who has authority over resources extracted from Martian soil? These questions aren't merely academic exercises for future legal scholars. They're practical challenges that the first permanent Mars residents will face within the next 2 decades. The decisions made by these early colonists about governance, law, and social organization will establish precedents that may influence human expansion throughout the solar system. The economic models supporting Mars colonization are evolving beyond traditional cost-benefit analyses to encompass entirely new concepts of value and investment return. The immediate economic benefits of Mars colonization may be minimal, but the long-term implications for human survival and technological development justify enormous upfront investments that wouldn't make sense in traditional business contexts. Mars colonies will initially represent massive capital sinks, requiring continuous investment from Earth, with little prospect of immediate return. However, the development of local resource extraction and manufacturing capabilities could eventually transform Mars from a drain on Earth resources to a valuable trading partner and even a competitor in certain markets. The potential for Mars to become a launching platform for asteroid mining and deeper solar system exploration adds another dimension to the economic calculations. The lower gravity well of Mars makes it significantly easier to launch spacecraft to the asteroid belt or outer planets compared to launches from Earth. This could position Mars as a critical hub in the expansion of human civilization throughout the solar system. Technological spillovers from Mars colonization research are already generating innovations that benefit terrestrial applications. Closed-loop life support systems developed for Mars habitats are finding applications in sustainable Earth architecture. Advanced recycling technologies designed to handle Martian resource scarcity are improving efficiency in Earth manufacturing processes. Medical research focused on the health challenges of Mars living is advancing our understanding of human physiology and aging. These technological benefits justify Mars colonization investments, even if the colonies themselves never achieve full economic independence. The research and development required to keep humans alive on Mars drives innovation across multiple fields simultaneously, creating a multiplier effect that accelerates technological progress beyond what would occur through Earth-focused research alone. The educational implications of Mars colonization extend far beyond technical training to encompass entirely new fields of study. Mars geology, atmospheric science, and astrobiology will become major academic disciplines. Engineering curricula will need to incorporate the unique challenges of designing systems for extraterrestrial environments. Medical schools will need to prepare doctors for practicing medicine in low-gravity, high-radiation environments with limited evacuation options. The children growing up during the early phases of Mars colonization will receive educations fundamentally different from anything available on Earth. They'll learn practical skills like habitat maintenance, resource conservation, and emergency procedures alongside traditional academic subjects. Their perspective on human civilization will encompass both worlds from the beginning, creating a generation with truly interplanetary worldviews. Language evolution on Mars presents fascinating possibilities for how human communication adapts to new environments. Technical terminology specific to Martian conditions will develop rapidly, creating specialized vocabularies that may eventually influence broader linguistic patterns. The delay in Earth-Mars communication could encourage the development of more self-contained cultural and linguistic traditions among Mars residents. The art and culture that emerge from Mars colonies will reflect the unique aesthetic possibilities of the Martian environment. Imagine sculptures carved from Martian rock, paintings depicting butterscotch skies and blue sunsets, music composed for the acoustic properties of pressurized habitats. These cultural expressions will represent the first truly extraterrestrial human art forms. Sports and recreation on Mars will adapt to the one-third gravity environment, creating entirely new forms of physical activity and competition. Traditional Earth sports may become impossible or dangerous in low gravity, while new activities take advantage of the unique physical conditions. These recreational adaptations will contribute to the development of distinctly Martian cultural traditions. The religious and philosophical implications of Mars colonization touch fundamental questions about humanity's place in the universe. Traditional Earth-based religious concepts may evolve to encompass multiplanetary existence, while entirely new philosophical frameworks may emerge to address the unique spiritual challenges of life on Mars. The experience of looking up at Earth as a distant star may profoundly alter human perspectives on meaning, purpose, and cosmic significance. The health monitoring and medical care systems required for Mars colonies represent advances in preventive medicine and remote healthcare, that could revolutionize medical practice on Earth. Every Mars resident will require continuous health monitoring using advanced sensors and diagnostic systems. Surgical procedures will need to be performed using robotic assistants or extremely well-trained general practitioners, as medical specialization becomes a luxury that small colonies cannot afford. Pharmaceutical production on Mars will require local manufacturing capabilities for essential medications, as supply missions from Earth cannot be relied upon for critical medical supplies. This necessity will drive research into simplified drug manufacturing processes and alternative therapeutic approaches that can be implemented with limited resources and equipment. Mental health support for Mars colonists will require innovative approaches to psychological care in extreme isolation. Virtual reality systems may provide simulated Earth environments for therapeutic purposes. Advanced communication systems will enable remote counseling sessions with Earth-based mental health professionals, though the communication delays will require new therapeutic techniques adapted to interplanetary distances. The food systems of Mars colonies will evolve beyond basic survival requirements to encompass cuisine, culture, and social interaction around shared meals. The psychological importance of food variety and cultural food traditions will drive research into expanded agricultural capabilities and food processing techniques that can create familiar flavors and textures from limited ingredient palettes. Brewing and fermentation processes may become particularly important for Mars colonies, as these traditional food preservation techniques also provide psychological comfort and social bonding opportunities. The first Mars-brewed beverages will represent significant cultural milestones in the development of independent Martian communities. The waste management systems of Mars colonies will achieve levels of efficiency that exceed anything attempted on Earth, as every organic molecule becomes precious in the closed-loop ecosystems necessary for survival. Human waste, food scraps, and even dead plant matter will be processed through sophisticated recycling systems that extract maximum value from every available resource. These waste processing systems will likely become models for sustainable living that can be applied to Earth communities facing resource scarcity or environmental degradation. The necessity of perfect efficiency on Mars will drive innovations in recycling and resource management that benefit both worlds. The construction techniques developed for Mars habitats will need to function in environments with minimal atmospheric pressure, extreme temperature variations, and limited access to traditional building materials. Three-dimensional printing using local materials will likely dominate early construction, but more advanced techniques may eventually enable the construction of large-scale structures using sophisticated robotic systems. Underground construction may become the dominant architectural approach on Mars, as subsurface habitats provide natural protection from radiation and temperature extremes. These underground cities will require innovative approaches to lighting, air circulation, and psychological space design to maintain human comfort and mental health in artificially lit environments. The timeline for achieving truly self-sustaining Mars colonies depends on successfully addressing all these interconnected challenges simultaneously. No single breakthrough will enable Mars colonization. Instead, success requires the convergence of advances across dozens of different fields, from propulsion systems to agricultural techniques to psychological support systems. The accelerating pace of progress across all these areas suggests that the timeline for establishing permanent Mars settlements is compressing more rapidly than most conservative estimates predict. Each solved problem enables solutions to other problems, creating a cascade of technological and operational advances that could enable Mars colonization within the next 15 to 20 years, rather than the more distant timelines often discussed in academic literature. The momentum building behind Mars colonization efforts has reached a critical threshold where the question is no longer whether humans will establish permanent settlements on Mars, but how quickly these settlements will grow into genuine cities and eventually into independent civilizations. The Red Planet awaits not as a distant destination for future generations, but as humanity's next home, ready to welcome the pioneers who will plant the first seeds of interplanetary civilization beneath its alien skies. The manufacturing revolution that Mars colonization will unleash extends far beyond simple resource extraction to encompass entirely new approaches to production that could transform how humans create everything from electronics to artwork. When every gram of material must be accounted for and recycled indefinitely, manufacturing processes must achieve levels of precision and efficiency that exceed anything attempted on Earth. Consider the challenge of producing computer processors on Mars. These devices require ultra-pure silicon, precisely controlled environments, and manufacturing tolerances measured in nanometers. Yet Mars colonies will eventually need local production of electronic components to maintain their technological independence. This necessity is driving research into simplified semiconductor manufacturing that can function in the resource-constrained environment of an extraterrestrial settlement. The metallurgy of Mars presents unique opportunities and challenges that will reshape how humans work with metals and alloys. The lower gravity environment enables manufacturing techniques that would be impossible on Earth, while the lack of atmospheric corrosion allows for metal processing approaches that wouldn't survive in terrestrial conditions. Mars iron, extracted from the planet's rust-colored soil, may possess properties that make it superior to Earth metals for certain applications. Advanced 3D printing technologies will evolve beyond their current capabilities to become the backbone of Martian manufacturing. These systems will need to work with locally available materials, creating everything from tools and machine parts to habitat components and even food items. The printers themselves will need to be manufacturable on Mars, creating a bootstrap manufacturing capability that can replicate and improve its own production systems. The energy storage requirements of Mars colonies push battery technology and alternative energy storage methods toward revolutionary advances. Solar panels must function efficiently during dust storms that can last for months, while energy storage systems must maintain their capacity through temperature extremes that would destroy conventional batteries. These challenges are driving research into new materials and energy storage concepts that could eventually make terrestrial energy grids more resilient and efficient. The development of nuclear power systems for Mars represents one of the most critical technological achievements required for large-scale colonization. These reactors must operate reliably for decades without maintenance from Earth, provide steady power output regardless of weather conditions, and remain safe even if operated by personnel without extensive nuclear engineering training. The compact, automated nuclear systems being designed for Mars could revolutionize terrestrial energy production by providing clean, reliable power sources that require minimal human oversight. Water management on Mars will achieve levels of recycling efficiency that approach theoretical perfection. Every molecule of water becomes precious in the closed-loop systems necessary for survival, driving innovations in purification, recycling, and conservation that far exceed anything attempted on Earth. These water management systems will likely become models for addressing water scarcity in terrestrial environments facing drought or contamination. The atmospheric processes required to maintain breathable air in Mars habitats represent engineering challenges that push the boundaries of chemical engineering and life support system design. These systems must continuously scrub carbon dioxide from the air while adding oxygen, maintain proper humidity levels, and filter out contaminants, all while operating with perfect reliability for years at a time. The failure of atmospheric processing systems means immediate death for everyone in the habitat, creating pressure for redundancy and reliability that exceeds any terrestrial engineering requirement. Agricultural systems on Mars will evolve into sophisticated ecosystems that maximize food production while maintaining the psychological benefits of natural environments. These won't be simple hydroponic gardens, but complex biological systems that incorporate beneficial insects, nitrogen-fixing bacteria, and even small-scale aquaculture systems that provide protein while contributing to nutrient cycling. The development of meat alternatives and protein production systems for Mars will likely accelerate research into cellular agriculture and synthetic biology. Growing traditional livestock on Mars would be prohibitively resource-intensive, but cultured meat production could provide familiar protein sources using a fraction of the resources required for traditional animal husbandry. These technologies, developed for Mars applications, could help address food security challenges on Earth while reducing the environmental impact of meat production. Pharmaceutical and medical supply production on Mars will require complete self-sufficiency in manufacturing essential medications and medical devices. This necessity will drive research into simplified drug synthesis, medical device manufacturing using local materials, and alternative therapeutic approaches that can be implemented without the complex supply chains that support terrestrial medicine. Mars colonies may become testing grounds for medical innovations that prove valuable for remote or resource-constrained Earth communities. The communication systems linking Mars colonies to Earth will evolve into sophisticated networks that manage the variable delays and interruptions caused by planetary motion and solar interference. These systems will need to buffer communications, prioritize critical messages, and maintain continuous connectivity through multiple relay stations and satellite networks. The communication protocols developed for Earth-Mars communication could improve terrestrial internet infrastructure by providing more robust handling of network delays and interruptions. Transportation networks within Mars colonies will develop from simple rover-based systems into sophisticated infrastructure that supports the movement of people, materials, and information across the planetary surface. These networks will need to function in dust storms, extreme temperatures, and the challenging terrain of an alien world. The transportation systems developed for Mars could provide insights for improving terrestrial transportation in extreme environments like polar regions or high-altitude locations. The social dynamics of Mars colonies will evolve unique approaches to conflict resolution, resource allocation, and community decision-making that may offer valuable lessons for Earth communities facing resource constraints or environmental challenges. The necessity of cooperation for survival will likely create social innovations that balance individual rights with collective needs in ways that could benefit terrestrial societies. Educational systems on Mars will need to provide comprehensive training in technical skills while maintaining cultural and intellectual traditions from Earth. These educational programs will likely emphasize practical problem solving, resource conservation, and interdisciplinary thinking in ways that could improve terrestrial education systems. Mars-educated individuals may develop cognitive approaches and problem-solving skills that prove valuable when they return to Earth or communicate with Earth-based colleagues. The artistic and cultural expressions that emerge from Mars colonies will reflect the unique aesthetic possibilities of the Martian environment while maintaining connections to Earth cultural traditions. This cultural evolution could enrich human civilization by adding new perspectives, artistic techniques, and creative traditions that emerge from the experience of living on another world. The legal and governmental systems developed for Mars colonies will need to address unique challenges like resource allocation in survival situations, jurisdiction over crimes committed in interplanetary space, and the rights of individuals born on Mars. These legal innovations could provide models for addressing similar challenges in extreme Earth environments or in future space settlements throughout the solar system. The timeline for achieving these advanced capabilities continues to compress as multiple technological developments converge and accelerate each other. What seemed like challenges for the distant future are becoming immediate engineering problems that need solutions within the next decade or two. The first Mars colonists won't be stepping into an empty world, but into an environment where many of these systems are already operational and ready to support human life. The convergence of artificial intelligence, robotics, advanced materials science, and biotechnology is creating possibilities for Mars colonization that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. These technologies aren't developing in isolation, but as part of an integrated system that makes the entire colonization effort more feasible and sustainable. Private industry is driving much of this innovation at a pace that exceeds traditional government research and development timelines. Companies are investing billions of dollars in Mars-related technologies, not as speculative ventures, but as practical business opportunities that will generate returns within current business planning horizons. The international cooperation emerging around Mars colonization efforts is creating unprecedented collaboration between nations, companies, and research institutions. This cooperation is accelerating technological development while reducing costs and risks for all participants. The shared challenge of establishing human civilization on Mars is fostering collaboration that transcends traditional political and economic boundaries. The risk assessment for Mars colonization has shifted from impossible to difficult but achievable as our understanding of the challenges improves and our technological capabilities advance. What once seemed like insurmountable obstacles now appear as complex engineering problems with identifiable solutions and reasonable timelines for implementation. The public support for Mars colonization continues to grow as people recognize both the inspirational value and practical benefits of establishing human settlements on another world. This support is translating into political backing, investment funding, and talent recruitment that accelerates the entire effort. The momentum behind Mars colonization has reached a tipping point where success seems not just possible, but increasingly inevitable. Too many resources have been committed. Too many technological barriers have been overcome. and too many brilliant minds are focused on the remaining challenges for the effort to simply fade away, like previous space exploration initiatives. The question has evolved from whether humans can survive on Mars to how quickly we can establish thriving communities that will grow into genuine cities and eventually into independent civilizations. The technologies, resources, and human commitment necessary for Mars colonization are converging at an unprecedented rate, making permanent human settlement on Mars not a distant dream, but an achievable goal within the next 15 to 20 years. Mars beckons not as an impossible destination, but as humanity's next chapter, waiting to unfold beneath alien skies, where human ingenuity and determination will plant the seeds of interplanetary civilization. The red planet represents more than just another world to explore. It represents the next phase of human evolution, the moment when our species transcends the boundaries of a single world and becomes truly cosmic in scope and ambition. The children listening tonight may themselves be among the first generation to call Mars home, growing up in pressurized habitats beneath butterscotch skies, breathing recycled air and drinking water extracted from ancient Martian ice. They'll be the pioneers of a new branch of human civilization, carrying forward the dreams and aspirations of everyone who has ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what lies beyond our pale blue dot. The gravitational embrace of Mars will reshape human bodies in ways we're only beginning to understand. Children born beneath those butterscotch skies will grow taller and leaner than their Earth-born parents, their bones adapting to a world where jumping 3 times higher feels natural. Their cardiovascular systems will develop differently, pumping blood through bodies that weigh only 1/3 of what they would on Earth. These aren't temporary adaptations, but permanent evolutionary changes that will create the first truly Martian branch of humanity. The reproductive biology of Mars presents questions that touch the very essence of human continuation. Can human pregnancy proceed normally under reduced gravity and increased radiation? Will children conceived and born on Mars be able to return to Earth's crushing gravitational embrace? Or will they be forever bound to their birth world? The first Mars-born humans may represent not just geographical pioneers but biological ones, adapted to their alien environment in ways that make them distinctly different from their Earth ancestors. These biological adaptations will unfold alongside cultural ones as Mars communities develop their own traditions, languages, and social structures. The shared experience of living in artificial environments where every breath depends on human engineering will create bonds and perspectives unlike anything that has ever existed on Earth. Mars residents will understand viscerally that their survival depends on the proper functioning of complex technological systems and the cooperation of their fellow colonists. The sleep cycles of Mars inhabitants will gradually shift to accommodate the planet's 24-hour and 37-minute days. This seemingly minor difference will accumulate over time, creating a temporal drift that separates Mars communities from Earth schedules. Eventually, Mars residents may operate on completely different circadian rhythms, sleeping and waking according to Martian time, rather than attempting to maintain synchronization with their distant home world. The sensory experience of living on Mars will create psychological adaptations that we can barely imagine. The absence of natural weather, the lack of wind-carried sounds, the strange quality of light filtered through a thin atmosphere, all these factors will shape human consciousness in subtle but profound ways. Mars residents will develop aesthetic appreciation for landscapes and phenomena that Earth dwellers might find barren or alien. They'll find beauty in the geometry of habitat domes, the glow of artificial growing chambers, the precise choreography of life support systems humming in perfect harmony. Food culture on Mars will evolve beyond mere nutrition to become a cornerstone of community identity and psychological well-being. The careful cultivation of crops in hydroponic gardens will take on ritual significance, connecting Mars residents to the fundamental processes that sustain life. Harvest celebrations will mark the successful completion of growing cycles that represent survival itself. The development of distinctly Martian cuisine, adapted to available ingredients and cooking methods suitable for pressurized environments, will become one of the first, unique cultural expressions of interplanetary civilization. The architecture of Mars settlements will reflect not just engineering requirements but the psychological needs of humans living in artificial environments. Designers will discover that certain geometries, lighting patterns, and spatial relationships promote mental health and community cohesion more effectively than others. The most successful habitat designs will balance efficiency with beauty, creating spaces that feel like homes rather than merely survival shelters. Common areas will become essential gathering spaces where colonists can experience something approaching the natural social interactions that humans crave. The governance structures that emerge on Mars will likely blend democratic ideals with the practical necessities of survival in an unforgiving environment. Traditional political concepts like majority rule may give way to consensus-based decision-making when the stakes involve life and death for entire communities. Technical expertise will carry more weight in Martian political systems than charisma or traditional political skills. Leaders will be chosen for their ability to make sound decisions under pressure rather than their ability to win popularity contests. The economic systems of Mars colonies will operate according to principles that prioritize resource conservation and collective survival over individual wealth accumulation. Traditional concepts of ownership may evolve when applied to recycled air, purified water, and carefully rationed food supplies. Everything becomes shared to some degree, when failure to share efficiently could result in community-wide disaster. These economic innovations could provide valuable models for addressing resource scarcity challenges on Earth. The legal frameworks governing Mars settlements will need to address unique situations that have never existed in human jurisprudence. What constitutes murder when someone sabotages life support systems? How do you handle theft when someone hoards resources that the entire community needs for survival? What are the rights of individuals versus communities when individual actions could endanger everyone? The legal precedents established by early Mars colonies will influence the development of law throughout the expansion of human civilization into the solar system. Communication protocols between Mars and Earth will evolve sophisticated methods for managing the delays and interruptions caused by planetary motion and solar interference. Important conversations will require careful planning and patience, as messages take anywhere from 4 minutes to nearly an hour to travel between worlds. This communication lag will gradually reduce the influence of Earth governments and organizations over Mars communities, fostering the development of truly independent decision-making capabilities. The medical practices that develop on Mars will emphasize prevention and early intervention to a degree that exceeds anything practiced on Earth. Every Mars resident will become intimately familiar with basic medical procedures and diagnostic techniques, as specialized medical care may not always be immediately available. The development of surgical robots and advanced diagnostic systems will enable small communities to handle medical emergencies that would require large hospital systems on Earth. Mental health support systems for Mars residents will incorporate virtual reality environments that provide psychological relief from the constrained artificial environments of the colonies. These systems will offer simulated Earth experiences, allowing colonists to walk through virtual forests, swim in virtual oceans, or simply sit in virtual parks and watch virtual birds. The therapeutic value of these experiences will likely prove essential for maintaining psychological stability during the long periods between supply missions from Earth. The educational systems that develop on Mars will emphasize practical skills and interdisciplinary thinking to a degree that could revolutionize how humans approach learning and knowledge. Every Mars resident will need to understand basic engineering, agriculture, medicine, and psychology, creating a more broadly educated population than typically exists on Earth. These educational approaches may produce individuals with cognitive flexibility and problem-solving abilities that prove valuable when they communicate with Earth-based colleagues or return to Earth for visits. The recreational activities that emerge on Mars will take advantage of the unique physical conditions of reduced gravity while addressing the psychological needs of humans living in confined spaces. Sports and games will evolve to incorporate three-dimensional movement possibilities that don't exist on Earth. Art forms will develop that use the acoustic properties of pressurized habitats and the visual possibilities of artificial lighting systems. Music composition may adapt to the sound transmission characteristics of thin atmosphere and enclosed spaces. The transportation infrastructure connecting Mars settlements will evolve from simple rover networks into sophisticated systems that enable regular travel across planetary distances. These transportation networks will need to function reliably during dust storms that can last for months, temperature extremes that vary by more than 100 degrees Celsius, and terrain conditions that range from rock-hard frozen ground to deep dust deposits that can bog down vehicles. The energy management systems of Mars colonies will achieve levels of efficiency and reliability that exceed anything attempted on Earth. Power generation must continue during months-long dust storms that block solar panels, while energy storage systems must function through temperature cycles that would destroy conventional batteries. These energy systems will incorporate multiple redundant sources and storage methods to ensure that power failures never threaten colony survival. The manufacturing capabilities of mature Mars colonies will eventually enable the production of complex goods that can be exported back to Earth or to other space settlements. The lower gravity well of Mars makes it an attractive platform for manufacturing large structures intended for use in space, while the unique properties of Martian materials may create products that are superior to their Earth equivalents for certain applications. Trade relationships between Mars and Earth could eventually become more balanced as Mars develops specialized manufacturing capabilities. The research opportunities available on Mars will attract scientists from Earth who want to study geological processes, atmospheric dynamics, and potentially even indigenous life forms that may exist in subsurface environments. Mars will become a natural laboratory for studying planetary formation, climate evolution, and the conditions necessary for life to emerge and survive. The scientific discoveries made on Mars could revolutionize our understanding of how planetary systems develop and what conditions are necessary for life to thrive. The cultural exchanges between Earth and Mars will create new forms of art, literature, and philosophy that reflect the unique perspective of interplanetary civilization. Mars residents will develop aesthetic appreciation for phenomena that Earth dwellers have never experienced, while Earth culture will be enriched by the perspectives and creative expressions of people who have lived their entire lives on another world. These cultural exchanges will accelerate as communication technologies improve and travel between the worlds becomes more routine. The technological innovations driven by the necessity of Mars survival will generate benefits that improve life on Earth in unexpected ways. Closed-loop life support systems will inform sustainable architecture and urban planning. Advanced recycling technologies will improve resource efficiency in terrestrial manufacturing. Medical systems designed for Mars isolation will enhance healthcare delivery in remote Earth locations. The cross-pollination of ideas between Mars colonization research and terrestrial applications will accelerate technological progress on both worlds. The timeline for achieving these advanced social, cultural, and technological developments continues to accelerate as the foundational technologies for Mars colonization mature and converge. The first permanent Mars residents are likely already alive today, perhaps children who don't yet know they'll spend their adult lives helping to establish humanity's first extraterrestrial civilization. The infrastructure, knowledge, and human commitment necessary to support thriving Mars communities are developing at a pace that makes permanent settlement achievable within the next 2 decades, rather than the distant future timelines often discussed in academic literature. The momentum behind Mars colonization has transcended the realm of speculation to become a coordinated effort involving governments, private companies, research institutions, and millions of individual supporters around the world. This convergence of resources, expertise, and determination creates a self-reinforcing cycle where each breakthrough enables further progress and attracts additional support and investment. The children growing up during the early phases of Mars colonization will receive educations and develop perspectives that prepare them for life in an interplanetary civilization. They'll learn to think in terms of resource cycles, system redundancies, and community interdependence that will serve them well whether they choose to join Mars colonies or apply these skills to addressing challenges on Earth. Their generation will be the first to consider interplanetary travel and settlement as normal rather than extraordinary human activities. The expansion of human civilization to Mars represents more than just geographical growth. It represents the development of resilience and redundancy that could ensure human survival through catastrophic events that might otherwise end our species. A self-sustaining Mars colony would serve as a backup for human consciousness, culture, and knowledge, providing insurance against existential risks that could devastate Earth-based civilization. The vision of thriving Mars cities filled with children who have never known Earth, where human culture continues to evolve and flourish under alien skies, transforms from science fiction to achievable reality with each passing year. The Red Planet beckons not as an impossible dream, but as humanity's next chapter, waiting to unfold through the courage, ingenuity, and determination of the generation that dares to plant the seeds of interplanetary civilization in the rust-colored soil of our neighboring world. The question of how soon we can colonize Mars has evolved from wondering if it's possible to planning the specific steps that will make it inevitable. The technologies are maturing, the resources are being allocated, and the human commitment is solidifying around timelines measured in years and decades rather than generations or centuries. Mars awaits not as a distant destination for future explorers, but as humanity's next home, ready to welcome the pioneers who will write the next chapter in the ongoing story of human expansion across the cosmos. The psychological preparation for Mars colonization will require understanding human adaptation in ways that challenge everything we know about resilience and community bonding. When you consider that early colonists will spend months traveling through the void of space, knowing they may never return to Earth, the mental frameworks they develop must be fundamentally different from anything humans have experienced before. These aren't just explorers on temporary assignments. They're emigrants to another world, carrying with them the responsibility of ensuring human consciousness survives beyond Earth. The selection process for permanent Mars residents goes far beyond technical qualifications or physical fitness. Psychologists are developing new assessment methods to identify individuals who can maintain emotional stability while watching Earth shrink to a pale blue dot in their rear-view cameras. They're looking for people who can find meaning and purpose in recycling their own wastewater, who can feel genuine excitement about successfully growing potatoes in artificial soil, who can maintain hope and optimism while surrounded by a landscape that has never known life. These psychological requirements aren't superhuman. They're profoundly human qualities that connect to our species' deepest survival instincts and social bonds. The same mental resilience that carried our ancestors across dangerous mountain passes and unknown oceans will enable Mars colonists to thrive in pressurized domes beneath alien skies. The difference lies in the stakes and the impossibility of rescue if things go wrong. The social dynamics that emerge in Mars colonies will create new forms of human relationship and community structure. When everyone's survival depends on everyone else's competence and cooperation, traditional social hierarchies based on wealth, status, or appearance become irrelevant. What matters is your ability to troubleshoot a failing water recycler, to remain calm during a dust storm that blocks solar power for weeks, to contribute meaningfully to group decisions that could determine whether everyone lives or dies. These communities will develop intimacy and trust levels that exceed anything possible in Earth societies, where individual failure rarely threatens group survival. Mars colonists will know each other's strengths, weaknesses, fears, and capabilities, with a depth that comes from sharing recycled air and depending on each other for every breath. They'll develop communication patterns and conflict resolution methods that prioritize group harmony and survival over individual preferences or ego conflicts. The daily rhythms of life on Mars will create new forms of human experience that gradually separate Mars culture from Earth traditions. Imagine waking each morning to check atmospheric readings before you check the weather. Picture gathering with your community to celebrate successful repairs to critical life support equipment. Consider the quiet satisfaction of watching plants grow in carefully tended hydroponic gardens, knowing that their health directly translates to your own survival and nourishment. These routines will take on ritual significance that goes beyond their practical necessity. The daily systems checks become meditation practices that connect Mars residents to the technological heartbeat that keeps them alive. The weekly community meetings where everyone reports on their area of responsibility become ceremonies that reinforce social bonds and shared purpose. The monthly celebrations when new supply shipments arrive from Earth become holidays that connect Mars communities to their distant home world. The reproductive biology questions surrounding Mars colonization touch fundamental issues about human continuation that we're only beginning to understand. The first children conceived and born on Mars will represent a new chapter in human evolution, developing in reduced gravity and increased radiation that may alter their physiology in ways we can't predict. Will they be able to return to Earth's crushing gravitational field? Or will they be forever adapted to their birth world? Will their children and grandchildren retain the ability to reproduce normally? Or will genetic drift create a distinctly Martian branch of humanity? These questions aren't merely academic curiosities, but practical challenges that Mars colonies will face within their first generation of permanent settlement. The decisions made about family planning, genetic monitoring, and reproductive health will influence the long-term viability of Mars civilization and potentially the future evolution of our species. The technological systems that support human life on Mars will become so sophisticated and automated that they approach the complexity of living ecosystems. Air recycling systems will monitor and adjust atmospheric composition continuously, responding to changes in human activity, plant respiration, and equipment emissions. Water purification systems will process waste streams with efficiency that approaches perfect recycling, extracting every usable molecule from sewage, shower water, and even humidity captured from human breath. These life support systems will incorporate artificial intelligence that learns and adapts to the specific needs and patterns of each Mars community. The systems will predict equipment failures before they occur, optimize resource allocation based on seasonal patterns and supply mission schedules, and even adjust environmental conditions to promote human health and psychological well-being. Living on Mars will mean existing in symbiosis with technological systems that become as essential and intimate as organs in the human body. The agricultural revolution required for Mars food production will transform how humans think about farming, nutrition, and the relationship between food and survival. Every calorie produced in Mars greenhouses represents a victory against the hostile environment outside. Every successful harvest celebration marks another step toward independence from Earth supply missions. The colonists who tend these growing systems will develop relationships with their plants that go beyond simple farming to become almost spiritual connections to the life processes that sustain human existence. The food systems will evolve beyond basic nutrition to incorporate the psychological and cultural importance of varied flavors, textures, and dining experiences. Mars colonists will develop sophisticated techniques for creating familiar Earth foods using limited ingredient palettes. They'll discover new combinations and preparation methods that take advantage of ingredients that grow well in Martian conditions. Eventually, distinctly, Martian cuisine will emerge that reflects both the constraints and opportunities of the alien environment. The communication networks linking Mars colonies to Earth will evolve into sophisticated systems that manage not just the technical challenges of interplanetary distances, but the emotional and cultural challenges of maintaining relationships across the void of space. Families separated by planetary distances will develop new forms of intimacy and connection that work within the constraints of communication delays that vary from minutes to nearly an hour. These communication systems will incorporate virtual reality technologies that allow Mars residents to share experiences with Earth-bound family and friends in ways that approach physical presence. They'll enable collaborative work sessions between Mars and Earth teams, educational exchanges between Mars students and Earth universities, and cultural performances that connect the two worlds through shared artistic experiences. The legal and governance frameworks that emerge on Mars will need to balance individual rights with collective survival in ways that challenge traditional democratic principles. When someone's individual choices can threaten the entire community's life support systems, how do you maintain personal freedom while ensuring group survival? When technical expertise matters more than popular opinion for critical decisions, how do you preserve democratic participation while ensuring competent leadership? These challenges will likely produce hybrid governance systems that incorporate elements of democracy, technocracy, and emergency management protocols. Mars communities may develop decision-making processes that shift between different models depending on the type of issue being addressed. Routine community matters might be handled through traditional democratic discussion and voting, while technical emergencies require immediate expert decision-making without time for broad consultation. The economic systems of Mars colonies will operate according to principles that prioritize efficiency, sustainability, and collective welfare over individual wealth accumulation. Traditional concepts of private property become complex when applied to recycled air, purified water, and carefully allocated living spaces. Everything becomes shared to some degree when failure to share efficiently could result in community-wide catastrophe. These economic innovations will likely influence Earth societies facing resource scarcity or environmental degradation. The circular economy principles that are essential for Mars survival could provide models for sustainable living that reduce waste and maximize resource efficiency on both worlds. The cooperative economic structures that emerge from Mars necessity might offer alternatives to traditional capitalism that prove attractive to Earth communities seeking more equitable and sustainable economic relationships. The medical and health systems required for Mars colonies will emphasize prevention, early detection, and community-wide health monitoring to degrees that exceed anything practiced on Earth. Every Mars resident will become intimately familiar with basic medical procedures and diagnostic techniques because specialized medical care may not always be immediately available. The development of advanced diagnostic systems, surgical robots, and treatment protocols will enable small communities to handle medical emergencies that would require large hospital systems on Earth. Mental health support will become as critical as physical health maintenance, requiring innovative approaches to psychological care in extreme isolation. Virtual reality systems will provide therapeutic environments that offer psychological relief from the constrained artificial environments of the colonies. Advanced communication systems will enable counseling sessions with Earth-based mental health professionals, though the communication delays will require new therapeutic techniques adapted to interplanetary distances. The educational systems that develop on Mars will emphasize practical skills, interdisciplinary thinking, and problem-solving approaches that could revolutionize learning on both worlds. Mars residents will need broad knowledge across multiple fields rather than narrow specialization, creating educational programs that produce individuals with cognitive flexibility and systems thinking abilities. These educational innovations may prove valuable for addressing complex challenges on Earth that require interdisciplinary approaches and holistic problem solving. The cultural evolution of Mars communities will create new forms of art, music, literature, and philosophy that reflect the unique perspectives of interplanetary civilization. Mars residents will develop aesthetic appreciation for phenomena that Earth dwellers have never experienced, while maintaining connections to Earth cultural traditions that provide psychological comfort and community identity. The cultural exchanges between Mars and Earth will enrich human civilization by adding new perspectives and creative expressions that emerge from the experience of living on another world. The timeline for achieving these advanced social, cultural, and technological developments continues to accelerate as foundational technologies mature and human commitment solidifies around specific goals and schedules. The convergence of artificial intelligence, robotics, advanced life support systems, and human spaceflight capabilities creates possibilities that compress decades of expected progress into years of actual achievement. The momentum building behind Mars colonization efforts reflects not just technological capability, but fundamental changes in how humans think about risk, exploration, and species survival. The recognition that Earth faces long-term existential risks has created urgency around establishing backup locations for human civilization that transcends traditional cost-benefit analyses. The investment of resources and human talent in Mars colonization represents insurance for consciousness itself, ensuring that human knowledge, culture, and potential survive even if Earth becomes uninhabitable. The question of how soon we can colonize Mars has transformed from speculation about distant possibilities to planning for immediate realities. The technologies, resources, and human commitment necessary for permanent Mars settlement are converging at unprecedented speed, making the establishment of thriving Mars communities achievable within the next 15 to 20 years, rather than the distant future timelines that characterized earlier discussions of interplanetary colonization. The children growing up today will witness the transformation of Mars from a red dot in the night sky to humanity's second home, where human culture continues to evolve and flourish under butterscotch skies. They may themselves choose to join the communities that will write the next chapter in human expansion across the cosmos, carrying forward the dreams and aspirations of everyone who has ever looked up at the stars and wondered what lies beyond our pale blue dot. Mars beckons not as an impossible destination, but as humanity's next chapter, waiting to unfold through the courage, ingenuity, and determination of the generation that dares to plant seeds of civilization in alien soil. The red planet represents more than just another world to explore. It represents the moment when our species transcends the boundaries of a single world and becomes truly cosmic in scope, perspective, and possibility. The transformation from isolated outposts to genuine Martian cities will unfold through phases that telescope together in ways that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. When the first permanent residents establish their foothold beneath those alien skies, they'll be laying foundations not just for buildings, but for an entirely new branch of human civilization that will develop its own momentum and character. The infrastructure networks that connect these early settlements will become the arteries of Martian society, carrying not just people and supplies, but information, culture, and the shared experiences that bind communities together. Imagine pressurized transport tubes stretching across kilometers of Martian landscape, allowing colonists to travel between settlements without ever exposing themselves to the hostile environment outside. These networks will enable specialization between communities, where one settlement focuses on manufacturing while another concentrates on agriculture or scientific research. The mining operations that extract resources from Martian soil will evolve far beyond simple survival necessities to become the foundation of an independent Martian economy. Deep beneath the rust-colored surface lie deposits of rare earth elements, precious metals, and industrial materials that could eventually be shipped back to Earth or used to supply other space settlements throughout the solar system. The lower gravity well of Mars makes it an ideal launching platform for spacecraft heading to the asteroid belt or the outer planets, positioning Mars colonies as critical hubs in humanity's expansion across the cosmos. The atmospheric modification experiments that begin with small-scale greenhouse gas production could gradually scale up to planetary engineering projects that future generations might pursue over centuries or millennia. While full terraforming remains beyond current technological capabilities, local atmospheric modification around settlements could create microclimates that support more Earth-like conditions within limited areas. These projects would represent the first steps toward transforming Mars from a hostile alien world into something approaching a second Earth. The genetic research conducted in Mars colonies will address fundamental questions about human adaptation to alien environments, while advancing our understanding of how life itself responds to conditions unlike anything that existed during terrestrial evolution. The reduced gravity, increased radiation, and artificial atmospheric conditions of Mars create a natural laboratory for studying human physiology, genetics, and evolutionary adaptation in real time. These studies could reveal new approaches to treating genetic disorders, understanding aging processes, and enhancing human resilience both on Mars and Earth. The artificial intelligence systems that manage Mars colony operations will become increasingly sophisticated and autonomous as they learn from years of operational experience and continuous optimization. These AI systems will eventually understand the rhythms and needs of Mars communities better than any human operator, predicting problems before they occur and optimizing resource allocation with precision that approaches perfection. The AI technologies developed for Mars applications could revolutionize automated systems on Earth, particularly in extreme environments or critical infrastructure applications. The cultural identity that emerges among Mars residents will blend Earth heritage with uniquely Martian experiences in ways that create something entirely new in human civilization. Children who grow up breathing recycled air and drinking purified water will develop perspectives on resource conservation, community interdependence, and technological integration that differ fundamentally from Earth-based worldviews. Their art, music, literature, and philosophy will reflect the unique aesthetic and existential realities of life on an alien world. The religious and spiritual frameworks that develop on Mars may incorporate the profound experience of living on another world into new forms of meaning-making and cosmic perspective. Traditional Earth religions may evolve to encompass multiplanetary existence, while entirely new spiritual traditions might emerge from the unique experiences of Mars colonization. The daily reality of depending on human-built systems for every breath could foster spiritual appreciation for technology, engineering, and human cooperation that approaches reverence. The sports and recreational activities that emerge on Mars will take advantage of the reduced gravity environment to create entirely new forms of physical expression and competition. Imagine basketball games where players can jump twice their Earth height, or new sports that incorporate three-dimensional movement through large pressurized volumes. These recreational innovations will contribute to the development of distinctly Martian cultural traditions, while providing essential physical and psychological outlets for community residents. The scientific research opportunities available on Mars will attract the most brilliant minds from Earth who want to study planetary formation, atmospheric evolution, geological processes, and the potential for indigenous life forms that might exist in subsurface environments. Mars will become the solar system's premier research destination, generating discoveries that advance our understanding of how planets develop and what conditions are necessary for life to emerge and thrive. The manufacturing capabilities of mature Mars colonies will eventually enable the production of goods and technologies that surpass Earth equivalents in certain applications. The unique conditions of Mars, from reduced gravity to different atmospheric composition, may enable manufacturing processes that are impossible on Earth. Advanced materials produced in Martian factories could find markets throughout the solar system as space-based industries develop around asteroid mining and lunar settlements. The population genetics of Mars colonies will require careful management to maintain genetic diversity and prevent the inbreeding effects that could threaten long-term community viability. Early settlements will need to maintain genetic databases and coordinate reproduction planning across multiple communities to ensure healthy genetic mixing. As populations grow and transportation between Mars and Earth becomes more routine, these genetic management challenges will diminish. But the early decades of colonization will require unprecedented attention to population genetics. The trade relationships that develop between Mars and Earth will evolve from complete dependence on Earth supplies to eventual balance and potentially even Martian advantages in certain specialized products. The unique materials available on Mars, combined with manufacturing processes adapted to local conditions, could produce goods that are superior to Earth equivalents for space applications. Eventually, Mars may become an exporter of specialized technologies, materials, and knowledge that benefit Earth communities and other space settlements. The transportation revolution required to support regular travel between Earth and Mars will drive innovations in propulsion technology, life support systems, and spacecraft design that make interplanetary travel as routine as international air travel is today. Advanced nuclear propulsion systems, rotating habitat modules that provide artificial gravity during transit, and closed-loop life support systems will transform the journey to Mars from a dangerous expedition into a comfortable, if lengthy, voyage. The energy abundance that Mars colonies will eventually achieve through advanced nuclear reactors, improved solar collection systems, and potentially even fusion power will enable industrial capabilities that exceed anything possible with Earth-based renewable energy alone. This energy abundance will support manufacturing processes, atmospheric modification projects, and lifestyle amenities that make Mars colonies genuinely attractive places to live, rather than merely survival-focused outposts. The waste management systems of Mars colonies will achieve perfect circular economy principles, where nothing is truly wasted, and every material flows through carefully designed recycling loops. These systems will become models for sustainable living that could transform how Earth communities approach resource consumption, waste processing, and environmental stewardship. The necessity of perfect efficiency on Mars will drive innovations that benefit both worlds. The construction techniques developed for Mars applications will revolutionize how humans build structures in extreme environments, using local materials and automated systems that could improve construction efficiency and sustainability on Earth. The three-dimensional printing technologies, robotic construction systems, and advanced material science required for Mars construction will find applications in terrestrial architecture, particularly for structures in remote locations or harsh environmental conditions. The timeline for achieving these advanced capabilities continues to compress as multiple technological streams converge and accelerate each other. What seemed like challenges for the distant future are becoming immediate engineering problems with identifiable solutions and reasonable development schedules. The first Mars colonists will arrive not as pioneers entering an empty wilderness, but as residents of communities where sophisticated infrastructure already exists to support human life and enable continued expansion. The momentum building behind Mars colonization reflects a fundamental shift in how humanity approaches exploration, risk management, and species survival. The recognition that Earth faces potential existential threats has created urgency around establishing backup locations for human civilization that transcends traditional return on investment calculations. This isn't just about adventure or scientific discovery, but about ensuring that human consciousness, knowledge, and culture survive regardless of what happens to Earth. The convergence of private investment, government support, international cooperation, and technological capability creates conditions for Mars colonization that have never existed before in human history. Multiple organizations are simultaneously developing the technologies, infrastructure, and human resources necessary for permanent Mars settlement, creating redundancy and competition that accelerates progress while reducing the risk that any single failure could derail the entire effort. The public imagination has embraced Mars colonization in ways that provide sustained political and financial support for the enormous investments required to make it happen. Unlike previous space exploration efforts that depended primarily on government funding and political priorities, Mars colonization enjoys broad-based support from private investors, technology companies, research institutions, and millions of individuals who see interplanetary settlement as both inspiring and necessary for long-term human survival. The question of how soon we can colonize Mars has evolved from wondering whether it's possible to planning the specific milestones and timelines that will make it inevitable. The technologies are maturing, the resources are being allocated, the human talent is being recruited and trained, and the public support is solidifying around goals that can be achieved within current human lifetimes, rather than distant future generations. The children listening tonight are growing up during the final phase of preparation for humanity's expansion beyond Earth. They may witness the launch of the first crewed missions to Mars, celebrate the establishment of permanent settlements, and perhaps even choose to join the communities that will spend their lives building humanity's first extraterrestrial civilization. Their perspectives on human possibility, technological capability, and cosmic destiny will be shaped by the reality of humans living and thriving on another world. Mars awaits not as a science fiction fantasy, but as humanity's next home, ready to welcome the pioneers who will write the opening chapters of interplanetary civilization. The red planet represents the moment when our species transcends the limitations of a single world and begins the next phase of human expansion across the cosmos, carrying forward the dreams, knowledge, and aspirations that have driven human exploration since our ancestors first looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond the horizon. The rust-colored world that has beckoned to human imagination for centuries will soon host the laughter of children who have never known Earth's blue skies, the conversations of families gathered around dinner tables in pressurized habitats, the quiet satisfaction of gardeners tending plants in artificial soil beneath alien suns. Mars colonization represents more than geographical expansion. It represents the continuation of the human story across the vastness of space and time, ensuring that consciousness, creativity, and wonder survive and flourish regardless of what cosmic challenges await our species in the depths of an uncertain future. The geological treasures buried beneath Mars's ancient surface tell a story of abundance that could sustain human civilization for millennia. Deep scanning missions have revealed mineral deposits that dwarf many of Earth's richest mining regions, locked away in formations that preserve billions of years of planetary history. These aren't just the basic materials needed for survival, but the rare earth elements and precious metals that form the backbone of advanced technology. Picture robotic mining operations working tirelessly in the Martian underground, following veins of copper, iron and titanium through caverns that have never known sunlight. These automated systems will prepare the raw materials that human settlers will transform into habitat modules, transportation systems, and the countless tools required for interplanetary civilization. The mining robots will be the unsung heroes of colonization, working in environments too dangerous for humans while stockpiling the resources that will build cities. The water ice deposits scattered across Mars represent far more than just drinking water and oxygen production. These frozen reservoirs contain the hydrogen that will fuel return journeys to Earth and the eventual expansion to other worlds in our solar system. Every kilogram of water extracted from Martian ice saves tremendous cost and complexity compared to shipping water from Earth across the interplanetary void. Advanced extraction techniques will tap into underground aquifers that may have flowed beneath the Martian surface for millions of years. These hidden water sources could support populations far larger than current mission planning assumes, potentially enabling Mars colonies to grow into genuine cities decades ahead of conservative projections. The discovery of easily accessible water reserves could accelerate colonization timelines from generations to decades. The atmospheric chemistry of Mars presents both challenges and opportunities that will reshape how humans think about planetary engineering. While the thin atmosphere poses obvious difficulties for human survival, it also contains the raw materials for creating breathable air, rocket fuel, and industrial chemicals. Carbon dioxide can be split into carbon and oxygen. Nitrogen can be captured and concentrated. Even the trace amounts of argon and other gases can be harvested for specialized applications. Imagine atmospheric processing plants humming quietly across the Martian landscape, steadily thickening the air around settlements and creating microclimates that support more Earth-like conditions. These facilities won't terraform the entire planet overnight, but they'll create bubbles of modified atmosphere that expand gradually outward from human settlements. Children born in these modified environments may experience something approaching Earth-normal atmospheric pressure without ever entering a pressurized habitat. The solar energy potential of Mars exceeds many Earth locations, despite the greater distance from our Sun. The lack of weather systems means solar panels can operate with predictable efficiency for months at a time. The reduced atmospheric filtering allows more direct solar radiation to reach the surface than would be possible through Earth's thicker atmosphere. Advanced solar collection systems designed specifically for Martian conditions could generate enormous amounts of clean energy. Nuclear power systems adapted for Mars conditions will provide the baseline energy that keeps colonies functioning through dust storms and the long Martian winter. These reactors will be smaller, safer, and more automated than Earth-based nuclear plants, designed to operate for decades without human intervention. The combination of solar and nuclear power will give Mars colonies energy abundance that enables industrial processes impossible with limited power budgets. The construction materials available on Mars include everything needed to build substantial structures using local resources. Martian concrete made with sulfur binders could prove stronger and more durable than Earth concrete in the low-pressure environment. Iron extracted from the rust-colored soil can be refined into structural steel. Silicon-rich minerals can be processed into glass for windows and electronic components. Three-dimensional printing technologies adapted for Martian materials will enable rapid construction of everything from small tools to entire building modules. These printers will work with feedstock materials processed from local soil, creating a construction industry that operates independently of Earth supply chains. The ability to print complex structures on demand will accelerate settlement expansion while reducing dependence on cargo shipments from Earth. The agricultural revolution required for Mars food security will transform how humans approach farming, nutrition, and food production systems. Hydroponic and aeroponic growing systems will achieve yields per square meter that exceed the best Earth farms while using a fraction of the water and eliminating soil-based diseases and pests. These controlled environment systems will produce fresh vegetables, grains, and even fruits in carefully optimized growing chambers. Protein production on Mars will likely rely heavily on cellular agriculture and alternative protein sources that require minimal resources compared to traditional livestock. Insect farming, algae cultivation, and lab-grown meat production will provide the protein diversity that humans need while operating within the strict resource constraints of a closed-loop colony ecosystem. These protein production methods will be more efficient and sustainable than anything currently practiced on Earth. The medical infrastructure of Mars colonies will incorporate telemedicine capabilities that connect colonists with Earth-based specialists despite communication delays. Advanced diagnostic equipment will enable comprehensive health monitoring and early disease detection using automated systems that require minimal human operator training. Surgical robots will provide capabilities that exceed what individual human surgeons could accomplish, enabling complex medical procedures in communities too small to support medical specialists. Pharmaceutical production facilities will manufacture essential medications locally using simplified chemical processes adapted for small-scale production. These facilities will focus on producing the most critical medications while relying on Earth shipments for specialized drugs that require complex manufacturing infrastructure pharmaceuticals locally will provide. The ability to produce basic medical security that reduces dependence on Earth supply missions. The communication networks connecting Mars settlements will evolve into sophisticated information systems that manage not just voice and data transmission, but the coordination of complex industrial and agricultural processes across multiple sites. These networks will incorporate artificial intelligence systems that optimize resource allocation, predict equipment failures, and coordinate responses to emergencies that could threaten entire communities. As you drift towards sleep tonight, carried by these visions of humanity's next great chapter, remember that you're living through the final moments before we become a truly interplanetary species. The children born tomorrow may take their first steps not on Earth's familiar ground, but on the rust-colored regolith of Mars, breathing recycled air beneath butterscotch skies, growing up as citizens of two worlds rather than one. The question of how soon we can colonize Mars has transformed from distant speculation into immediate planning. The technologies are converging, the timelines are compressing, and the red planet awaits not as an impossible dream, but as humanity's next home, ready to welcome the pioneers who will ensure our species survives and thrives across the vast expanse of the cosmos. Sweet dreams, fellow travelers in this cosmic story that's only just beginning to unfold.